Hey everybody, welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. Big shout out to our loyal viewers. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe now. Don't wait. We're going to help you all off season talking about what running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks you want to draft. And we're going to start today with our top 24 wide receiver rankings. It's early, but still, we need to know exactly what the lay of the land looks like before we get started on your actual drafts. All right, so we'll go through our top five first. And I have Stephon Diggs, right, leading receiver from last year. At number one, DK Metcalf, my guy, I think could be the number one fantasy receiver this year. I have him too. Then Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and then Calvin Ridley. Chris, I am just shocked. You got Tyreek Hill, probably your least favorite player in the NFL. You have him number one, and I get it, but I'm still surprised to see you put him there.
I mean, you look at the last 3 years with Patrick Mahomes. He's averaging over 80 yards per game and almost a touchdown per game. I think it's like 0.8 touchdowns per game. That's hard to match. It's him, Travis Kelce, and that's it as far as targets go. And he's tied to Patrick Mahomes. So as much as it pains me, I have to be honest. I have to be real. He's number one.
All right, you're a man of your word. You don't play favorites in fantasy. You're going to pick who you think is going to do the best. You got Tyreek Hill. Definitely one of the safer picks there because we've seen him do it year after year. Stephon Diggs, let's be real. We've only seen him do it 1 year with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Maybe that was a career year for him and for Allen. Who knows? I don't think so, obviously, because I have number one. But yeah, I get it. You know what you're getting with Hill. So then you got Diggs, Devontae, of course, number three. DeAndre Hopkins at four. Guessing you're not worried about the whole vaccine thing. We're not going to get into that, but you think he'll be on the field? He's not going to pull a sudden retirement before the season.
No, I think he's going to be out there all season long. And if he gets COVID, I mean, let's hope he doesn't get COVID. Obviously, we don't want that for anybody. But if he does, okay, he misses a couple games. You should be able to hold the fort for a couple games without DeAndre Hopkins. And this is a guy who's finished top 5 for the last 5 years. So I feel pretty confident having him in the top 5 again.
Yeah, I hear that. So I have him just a little bit lower, number 6. I really think Ridley is going to see an uptick of targets. He was already, on his way to becoming the number one guy in Atlanta. Of course, he definitely is now. So go through 10. I got DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson. We're definitely going to have to talk about him. A-Rob, and then McLaurin. So you have DK Metcalf all the way down at 6. You're going to have to justify that to me. How can you have him so low?
So low. The wide receiver 6, so low. He's terrible. Don't even draft him. I have him that low because I just like the other 5 guys better. Look, I think DK Metcalf has legitimate wide receiver 1 upside, but I think the other 5 guys do as well. And when you look at those top 5 guys, Diggs, Hill, Adams to me are the clear top 3. I already talked about Hopkins for the last 5 years in the top 5, so I feel like that's really safe. And then Ridley is now Matt Ryan's number 1 target. He's awesome. He was great last year with Julio, so I just can't put those guys outside the top 5. So as much as I like Metcalf, he falls all the way down to 6.
That's just a crime against humanity. I can't believe it. Then you got Justin Jefferson, number 7. Based on what he did last year, that seems pretty reasonable, maybe even low. But ahead of Keenan Allen, I know you're an Allen stan. I mean, with Justin Herbert taking a step forward, some people think maybe Allen has an even better year. I know he missed a game with an injury. It wasn't 100% that other game where he fooled us all to thinking he was going to play. Do you think Jefferson is pretty much a lock to repeat or come close to what he did last year?
No, definitely. No one's ever a lock to catch or to go for 1,400 yards. That's just an insane amount of yards in the NFL. I don't think people realize how rare, a handful of guys, even when we factor in running backs, a handful of guys top 1,400 yards on the year. It's not very much. But the one thing is he only had 7 touchdowns last year. And I know everybody thinks Adam Thielen's the touchdown guy. Okay, we've talked about this many times. Touchdowns come, touchdowns go. What if Adam Thielen isn't the touchdown guy this year? What if it's Justin Jefferson? So what if Justin Jefferson drops down to, say, 1,200 or 1,300 yards, which is still an incredible year, but he catches 10 touchdowns? That'll more than make up for it. He's the number 1 there. He's going to get the bulk of the targets, the bulk of the yards, and I think he's going to get the bulk of the touchdowns this year as well.
All right. I mean, if that happens, then yeah, absolutely, we probably have him too low. If he somehow gets to double-digit touchdowns, which is possible, definitely possible there. It's not like the Vikings added anything at receiver depth-wise. I mean, they got Jefferson and Thielen, and that's it. Unless you think that D.D. Westbrook, who may sign there, is something, which you shouldn't. Now you at number 8 have A.J. Brown. Notice I don't have him in my top 10. I mean, I get it. The talent is great, but don't you think Julio becomes the number one guy there, if not the 1A, 1B situation? I mean, Corey Davis had a nice year, but he's not Julio Jones, one of the best receivers of this generation. So to me, I've just got to knock Brown down a tick because it's still a run-heavy offense, and now he's not going to be, the first, second, and third option that Ryan Tannehill looks at in the passing game.
I'll tell you, I almost left Julio Jones out of my top 24. I'm significantly more nervous for Julio Jones than I am for A.J. Brown. Julio Jones is going from an offense that threw the ball over 600 times, a quarterback that he played with for 5 years, I think, 6 years, I don't even know, to an offense that threw the ball 400 times, just under 500 times, and a quarterback he's never played with. So no, I don't think it's just going to be Julio Jones just step right in and pick up where he left off. I think A.J. Brown is going to be the number one. I think Julio Jones is going to take time to settle in. And that even assumes he can stay healthy all year. And I'm not an injury guy, but we're talking about a, early 30s wide receiver who's dealt with injuries the last few years. So no, not worried about A.J. Brown. If anything, maybe this helps A.J. Brown because, he's got the best second wide receiver he's ever had on the team, and defenses can't just double team him now.
Okay. I mean, I get that. The age injury concern, that's definitely legit. So maybe I'm too high. Let's see our next group of 5 here. So I go Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones, who clearly you think is too high there, at wide receiver 15. You're going with Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Robert Woods. Okay, so with Jones aside, let's talk about the fact that you have Amari Cooper there. I have CeeDee Lamb at the same place you do, but I don't have Cooper in that group. I mean, right now Cooper is on the pup, but expected to be ready for week 1. I mean, we think Lamb and Cooper are basically interchangeable here? Because a lot of times in drafts we see, in our mock drafts we do, 3 times a week, sometimes we'll see Lamb go first, sometimes we'll see Cooper go first, but more often than not, it's Lamb. I mean, do you feel like it's just like a pick 'em situation here then?
I do. I really do. I feel like this is a 1A 1A.1 type situation. Yeah, I do. I mean, I could make a case, and if somebody said, "No, CeeDee Lamb's going to finish ahead of Cooper," I'd say, "Okay." And if somebody said, "No, Cooper's going to finish ahead of CeeDee Lamb," I'd be like, "Okay." I don't think it's going to make a significant difference. I mean, I'm sure both will have some monster weeks. Both will have some very good weeks. Both will have some bad weeks. That's just the way it's going to work, I think. So to me, it's like too close to call. Great offense, great quarterback. Both should be targeted a ton. So yeah, to me, it's a flip 'em. If you like one guy more than the other, okay, fine, take him.
Well, speaking of flip, I'll tell you, remember a couple of months ago, I was drafting Cooper ahead of Lamb pretty much every time. I thought he's still going to be the lead guy. We've seen him do it. He's still in his prime. It's not even the injury so much, but I had Lamb kind of creeping ahead of him. I really think in his second year, I mean, we've seen what kind of talent Lamb is. Didn't really get a full season, to prove himself with Dak Prescott there. I kind of feel like Lamb's going to take over as the guy there. I don't think it's going to be a big difference, but I have more trust in Lamb. Go with the younger guy who could break out. Cooper, the injury, that's not something new. He's dealt with nagging injuries the last couple of years, and this isn't a brand new issue. This is just kind of recovering from what he's been going through. That's, to me, is just kind of the cherry on top that puts Lamb ahead. But not a big difference for me. If we go to our next group here, so we both have Cooper Kupp as the wide receiver. What are we at now? 16. And then I go Amari Cooper next. Robert Woods, who you already had, Deontay Johnson, and then Courtland Sutton. You also have Cooper there, Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin. That's a few spots lower than me, and then Julio Jones and Courtland Sutton. I know you love the value of Courtland Sutton, but talk to me about Godwin, because for you, there's a 5-spot difference, from where I have him and also compared to Mike Evans. So I guess you don't see that as kind of like a 1A, 1B situation where a lot of people do, because sometimes we'll see Godwin go ahead of Evans, but you feel like Evans is the guy and Godwin is just a little, less safe? Yeah,
because I feel like when you look at this Tampa Bay offense, I think Antonio Brown is going to have more of an impact than people think. He was actually really good down the stretch and throughout the playoffs last year. And if you look at like the target share, Antonio Brown had a significant target share down the stretch. But the thing is with Mike Evans, he's the big-bodied, outside, go up and get it type wide receiver. The guy when like Brady needs to play, he's that guy. When they get down to the red zone, he's the guy. That's why I have Evans somewhat higher. Where for me, I do like Godwin. I just feel like guys like Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp, they have just as much, if not more upside, and they're safer. So that's why I have Godwin a little lower because, again, I think Antonio Brown eats into Godwin's production more than Evans. I think he'll eat into both of their productions, but I think he'll eat into Godwin's a little bit more. If Antonio Brown wasn't there, I'd probably have Godwin right up there with Mike Evans.
All right. And then Antonio Brown, of course, not making our top 24, but definitely a good value if you're looking for your wide receiver 3. Still probably being a little undervalued, I think, in drafts right now. I'll just say about Godwin, the reason I have him as a top 15 receiver is because he was technically a top 15 fantasy receiver in fantasy points per game. The problem is he missed a couple games. You remember he had that broken pinky, came back, he had like a splint on it. He wasn't 100% catching the ball. And that kind of threw him off. Also had injury, the concussion issue and some other things. So if we had a full 16 game season from Godwin last year, I think we'd value him higher because the production would match more some of those other guys. I think that everything goes well, he's going to be a top 15 receiver. In fact, I'm betting on it this year.
I was going to say, let's be real. You have him in the top 15 because you have a bet that he'll finish in the top 15.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm literally betting on it. I actually have made a bet
It would
with our friend Jeremy
that outside the top 15 when you bet on it.
Yeah. Now I have no choice, do I? I have to keep him in the top 15. All right, and then let's finish out here. We have the next group here. We both have Thielen at 21. I have DJ Moore. You do not. I know that we have some concerns about the Carolina passing game because Sam Darnold, but I like the talent of Moore. Both have T. Higgins there in the same spot, and then we both have Tyler Lockett in the same spot. So really the only way we differ here is you like Curtis Samuel, I like DJ Moore, the former Panther versus the current Panther. So that's basically telling me you trust Ryan Fitzpatrick more than you trust Sam Darnold, or it's just your Washington fandom coming through.
I trust Ryan Fitzpatrick significantly more than I trust Sam Darnold. Look, Curtis Samuel was the wide receiver 3 last year, only played 62% of the snaps, led everybody in fantasy points per snap. Now he's the wide receiver 2, likely going to play 80%, 85%, maybe 90% of the snaps. And he's got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who, turned Devontae Parker into a 4th-year breakout, turned, who was the guy on the Jets that he was good? Turned Eric Decker into a stud. I mean, right? I guess maybe Peyton Manning did that too. But this guy's just like a wide receiver whisperer as far as fantasy football goes, right? He's a gunslinger. So yeah, I think Curtis Samuel is in for a huge season this year. Well, not a huge season, but a top 24 season. I think he's one of the best values on the board. As for DJ Moore, I know everybody loves DJ Moore's talent. He's so good. He's awesome. They say this every year, and every year people are like, this is the year. Finally, this is the year. I mean, he's been nice. He's been good. But now he's got probably the worst quarterback he's ever had. I'm sorry to Sam Darnold truthers, but it's true. This guy is not good. Maybe he'll prove me wrong this year like Josh Allen. Maybe he'll make some 4th year crazy or 5th year crazy leap, whatever year he's in. I don't know. Unlikely. So it's not so much about DJ Moore. It's the situation. I just don't like any of these Panthers receivers.
Well, look, I'm not going to be one to stand up and say Sam Darnold is back and he's going to all of a sudden be a stud. But I think he can be serviceable, and that's all you need. I mean, look, who did he have? DJ Moore almost put up 1,200 receiving yards the last 2 seasons, right? He came 7 yards short last year and goes 25 yards short the year before. And who did he have? Teddy Bridgewater? I mean, he's fine, but are we going crazy over Teddy Bridgewater? No. And then the year before that was Cam Newton in his last season as a Panther before they got rid of him because it was his, shell of himself, Cam Newton, and he's still putting up almost 1,200 yards. Is Sam Darnold like a huge step down from those 2 quarterbacks? Not really. And if you trust Joe Brady and this offense, and what they can do to try to, get the ball in his hands, because DJ Moore, he's a run after catch guy, right? He's somebody who is going to get open underneath and then do things with the ball. He's not going to be as dependent like Robbie Anderson is on going down the field and looking for that pinpoint accuracy. I think Moore is going to get by just fine. Look, if he only puts up 1,100 yards, I think he's still top 24 wide receiver to me. And there's a lot more question marks with the receivers left after this point. So, I do like Moore. Probably a little bit better than most people. I'm not jumping out to try to draft him as my wide receiver too, but I don't see him going that high. A lot of times you can get him as your third receiver because people have him outside the top 24. And to me, that's when it becomes a really good value.
Well,
I get what you're saying.
To answer your question, I do think Sam Darnold is significantly worse than Teddy Bridgewater and probably even Cam Newton of today.
Oh, well, that's possible. I can't say that's not possible. We'll see, though. We'll see. I think DJ Moore, though, he's going to be a good value in drafts. And Curtis Samuel, look, nothing against Curtis Samuel. I think he's actually a really solid pick there, too, though. All right, we broke down our wide receiver rankings. Who's too high? Who's too low? Let us know. Hit us up with a comment. Of course, don't miss our running back top 24 rankings as well. Talking about quarterbacks and tight ends, too. Everything covered to help you prepare for draft day. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching.